Sunshines! Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to make a GFX using a rig. I used Blender 2.9, but it's the same basic idea for all of them, so whichever one you have, hopefully you'll be able to figure it out from this tutorial. The first thing you want to do is just go into Roblox Studio and open up a blank base plate. And make sure you have 𝒕𝕤𝕗𝕠𝕝 load character plugin. If you don't, getting it's pretty simple. All you have to do is go down into plugins and search load character. It should be the first one that pops up. Once you have that, you just type in your username and make any changes to your avatar that you want. For example, I want to change the face, so I'm just going to go under head and delete the face. Then I go into the toolbox under images and replace it with a different face that I want. That one's pretty good. Once you're happy with the way your character looks, you can go and right click over here and export it. It doesn't really matter what you name it. When you're done with that, you're going to want to pick a model. I like to use 𝒱𝓃𝓃𝓈 amongst other, but so you can just look at a bunch of different ones until you find one that you like. I think I'm going to go with this one. So once you've picked it out, you do the same thing. You select it and export it. Once you're done doing that, you can just leave Roblox Studio. There's no need to save it unless you want to. Then you're going to go ahead and open up Blender. Once you've opened up Blender, you can go and download your rig. I will have the rig down in the description. You can just download that. And now you've got your rig in there. Then you're just going to want to open up the rig. And when you open it up, you're going to want to start off by deleting the head. To move, you just click Shift and the squiggly line apostrophe up top, and then you can just use WASD, and to move faster, you hold down Shift. Then we're going to select any part of the body, and up here switch it to Shader Editor, and zoom in on this box right there. It's this orange one in the second row. You can use these sliders to move it over when you zoom in. I'm just going to zoom in a lot so that you can see. Then you're going to want to click on the folder and add the texture. It'll have the username and then the word text.png. And we can insert that. Then you want to go to File, Import, 𝒂𝓊𝓃𝓈𝒾𝒸. Then you go to your desktop and you can find where you saved it. I have it saved right there, and it would have saved to MTL and OBJ. You want to open the OBJ one. But before you open it, you make sure that you have split by group checked on, which will make it so you can switch up the body parts and separate them, which we want to do since we're going to be removing the head off of that one. You click on the head, and then you can shift click on the hair and any accessories you might have. I don't have any accessories, so I can just simply move it over. And then you can delete the body. You can either select it and then just press delete on your computer, or you can press X and then press delete. If you ever make any mistakes, for example, if I were to put the arm over there, you can press Control-Z to undo. If you're using a Mac, it's Command-Z. And if I were to want to redo it, it would be Control-Shift-Z or Command-Shift-Z. Now that you've done that, you can start posing the avatar. Since I am going to be having mine sitting on the sofa you saw, I'm just going to make them into a sitting position. You want to make sure your pose mode is on. Sometimes it'll automatically put you in object mode, which doesn't let you move any of the joints. So you would just need to switch it to pose mode and select rotate. You can use each of the directions to twist it, or just use the thing as a whole to twist it. And with a rig, it makes it really easy to pose your avatar, which is why I think using a rig is a lot easier than not using one. But you pretty much just want to pose, move the limbs and everything until you're happy with the way it looks. I've finished moving the legs. Now I'm going to move the arms. For this, since I'm going to be doing a very simple GFX, I'm just going to be putting her arms in her lap. But you can also move a lot more than just the arms and the legs and the knees. You can point the toes. So if I were to want to point the toes like that, I could do that by selecting on those. You can also move the wrists by selecting on these. Once you're happy with the way it looks, you can go to File, Import, 𝒂𝓊𝓃𝓈𝒾𝒸 again, and find the model that you want to use. But this time you want to make sure that you turn off split by group. It'll automatically be on from the last time, but you want to make sure it's off. Otherwise it'll be a lot harder to move the furniture and everything. And when you go like this, it'll have the rotator or the mover at the origin. So you can just right click on it, set origin to geometry, which would just make it so that you spin it or move it from where it is. I just like to move it a little bit closer because it makes it a lot easier to move your character over. Then you're just going to want to click on the body and make sure it's in object mode, and shift click on every individual body part. And you want to make sure that you don't forget the wrists. But if you were to forget something, you can always undo it. Now I'm just going to be positioning the character. For this, you can take as long as you need to get it to exactly the way you want it to look. And you can just move around to look at it from different angles. And sometimes you might need to tweak some parts of it, because sometimes you might not have it posed perfectly to be able to sit in the chair or be in the bed or whatever you're using. Then you are going to go into object mode, and under here where it says add, you're going to want to add a light. I'm just going to be adding a sun. That's what I prefer. And this won't show up, so you can put it like in the room. I'm just putting it as close as possible because you want to get some pretty good lighting. Actually, really close. Then you can go and add a camera. Then to switch to the camera, you go right here, and you can move it the same way you moved normally with Shift and the squiggly line or apostrophe, if that's what you prefer to call it. And you can just position it to capture as much or as little as the background. You're going to want to change the resolution. I like to have it as 1200 pixels by 1200 pixels because I generally use these to post on Instagram, which is the Instagram, and that's the Instagram size. You also want to make sure you have it down as a JPEG, and I'm just going to be turning up the quality. For the render engine, you can choose between Cycles, Eevee, and Workbench. I like to use Cycles, even though it does take a little longer. It's not much of a difference for just a picture. If you're using an animation, though, sometimes using Eevee is faster, even though it's slightly lower quality. I'm going to be using a node. You can go to any HDRI download and just download one that you like. I like this one called The Sky is on Fire. Let me know if you want me to show you in a separate video how to download an HDRI or not. Sometimes you can turn on Ambient Occlusion. Sometimes it'll make it a bit too bright, but other times if you're using a different one, you need it. And then I can see how bright it is by clicking on that. Back in here, you're going to want to turn denoising on, which will help make it a lot smoother. And you want transparency to be set to 0. Then you can render, pose it more, add lights, do whatever. If you want, just experiment with the settings or whatever. There's a lot of settings that you can play around with and that do a bunch of different things. To render, you can save it beforehand if you would like. I'm going to be saving this. Save it as whatever you want and then render. And since this is an image, you are going to want to click Render Image. And then you just wait for it to render. It'll take different amounts of time depending on the resolution, if you have a 3D model background or a flat background. And as you can see over here, it's like splotchy and everything, but then it gets clearer. That's what the denoising is. So if you want it to be splotchy and like that, then you can just like turn denoising off. But if not, you can leave it on. Here's how it's coming out so far. As you can see, it just slowly works its way out, and you can see how much time is remaining up there. It's just an estimate. It could be like slightly off, but for the most part, that is pretty accurate. So in about a minute, it'll be done rendering, and we will have our finished product, and I will see you then. It is almost done rendering now. Now it's at just about 10 seconds left. You can see how many tiles there are too up here. It's just denoising now. And now it's done. When all that stuff disappears and you're just left with this, how much time it took, that's when you know it's done. And to save it, you just go to Image, Save As, and then you can just save it again as whatever you want. And you save it, and then it'll show up in your files, and you can use it as a profile picture, thumbnail, whatever you want, really. You can post it on Instagram, and the choice is up to you. I hope this helped you out if you're looking to make a GFX. Yeah. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know if you want to see any other tutorials in the future. For example, making an animated GFX for an intro or something else. Bye!